Welcome to Better Returns, where you will learn how to escape the volatility of the stock market by passively investing in real estate like a pro. 90% of millionaires earned and maintain their wealth by investing in real estate. We will share real-life examples from savvy investors so you can do the same. This show is for educational purposes only and should not be considered legal, tax, or investment advice. He drives a 22-year-old Porsche and cries every winter when it goes into storage. Your host and my dad, Matt Hansen.
Welcome back to Better Returns. I've got one of my friends on here, Anjesh Dubey. He is an experienced real estate investor. He is the co-founder of Dubey Investor Group, and he's got over a decade of experience in real estate, single-family home, commercial real estate. He does it all. He's got a portfolio of over 1,700 units with a value of over $90 million with an M. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you here.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for having me here.
Well, I always like to start with, what's your origin story? Like, how did you get into real estate? How did you discover this?
Yeah, that's a great question, I think. And I love to tell this story because me and my wife started investing in real estate like right out of the college. We graduated back in 2009, and first thing we did was invested in the real estate. But I think a lot of people ask questions like, why? Like, not many people does that, like start investing. People look for it, like either start saving or go out or enjoy. And first time you start earning, and like, why would you invest in real estate? But I think then I started reflecting on it, like, that's a great question. Do I know the answer for that? And then I started reflecting is that maybe it's our mindset, what our family backgrounds have been. So then I looked at it, and my grandfather, I realized that he was the first multifamily operator that I knew. And I didn't even realize it that he was actually a multifamily operator, because now what I know, he really was.
Yeah.
Because he had 15 unit multifamily, he lived in one, and he rented 14 others. So I was like, now I realize, because I watched him growing up, and he was retired. He got a pension, but he was like traveling. He was meeting us. He got like 5 other kids, so he was going in different places, meeting his grandkids, and then traveling around in the country. And I'm like, how he could afford all of that? And then I realized, because he got this mailbox money coming in, landing it into his account like every month, like on roll. And he doesn't need to have to stay anywhere, and that provides a lot of flexibility and has supported his lifestyle until he died. And that, I think, and I didn't think much of it, but when I realized that really played a role for me into believing into the real estate, it was like, okay, he did it like years ago, but for his retirement, that was something that was supporting him. So if I start doing it in years down the line, that's something can support myself. So I didn't know any really good terminologies, any technical terms, cash on cash, IRR, or whatever those was. I was like, oh, I got money, go take it, invest in here. And then we started doing it. And from there, we just never stopped. Like every few years, we saved enough and then bought something, either a single family, duplex, or a triplex. And then we live in a high-cost, high-tax state, Bay Area, right here in San Francisco. So our entry points start to become challenging. So like, what do we do next? And me and my wife talked about it, and we're like, hey, we got to find somewhere else. If it's expensive here, see if what people are doing outside of Bay Area. And then we found out, like, hey, there are great markets out there. We just need to overcome our fear factor of like, start investing where it makes sense. Live where you want to, but invest where it makes sense. So then from there, we just went into investing in half a dozen and more states with single families and residential homes. And then whatever it makes sense to even sell it, we exited some properties, and we still have a good portfolio that it continued to cash flow. So that's what my original mindset. I think it was my grandfather who put seed into our brain. And from there, I think it's just a mindset. We didn't go any crash course or real estate course.
Yeah, that's pretty rare, though. You had somebody in your family that was doing it at a young age. You saw your grandfather. And where was that? Was that in California?
Not in California. So me and my wife didn't grow up in US. So we are immigrants here. Yeah, and we grew up in India. And India, in the middle class, middle class, I think it doesn't invest too much into the real estate, but
Right.
whenever they get an opportunity, and it's very hard there because you don't get a loan. So anything that you buy, you'll have to just buy all cash, really.
Oh, okay.
So in the past, you don't used to get loans. So people like save for years, and then when they have enough money, and then they will just buy and then own it outright. And that's usually the default way. So that's what my parents did, my grandfather did, and that's why he only had like 15 units. Like if
Yeah.
we would use leverage, then he would have more. But he just bought cash for all his money that he saved, and then that's what he had.
Yeah, that's but it's pretty impressive. Certainly back in
Pretty
the day
impressive.
when that, particularly you're right, in
Exactly.
India, it's not really common for an
Gone.
individual to do that. Probably do
Correct.
mostly companies own then multifamily in India? Or who owns
So
them?
yeah, they are the big builder and construction companies,
Okay.
and then they build it, and then they just sell it to either an individual owner, or then they own it outright and then just rent it out. Yeah. So these are the bigger companies. So it's not common. And then what's common is like maybe people inherit from their family, and that's pretty
Oh,
common. Like hundreds of years ago, if someone owned a land or a home, then it's just gonna go into the family, and that's what they are gonna own their life and probably build a one another, and then now they have two homes, and that's what they're gonna pass on to their kids. And if they didn't lose it, then that's good, and then that's how the wealth grows. So that's what people in India does.
that's fascinating. That's really interesting. And you've got, people from all sorts of backgrounds. Like I was a corporate executive, so yeah, it made sense. This is easy stuff for me. I used to run profit and losses. I know your background lends itself really well to being successful investor and helping other people. So talk a little bit about your background, your professional background, and how that relates to real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I, my professional background is engineering management. So my background has been in engineering, software engineering. So I'm really close to data and
Mhm.
make my decisions based on data, get an insights from there. And then into the management, my role is to bring efficiency to the organization, look at it, care for the people, grow them, and then grow the organization, and how we can create better opportunities for the business, for the employees, and then just have a win-win scenario. So I can apply those skills, and I've been doing this for 14, 15 years. So I can utilize the same skills to my investment as well.
Right.
So
Exactly.
we make our decisions based on the data, like where the population is growing, in what part of the country people are migrating to, where it makes sense to invest, and then make a decision based on those insights. And then once we acquire an asset, my focus is towards building a team, that is, who's going to property manage it, who's going to be my broker, who's going to be my vendors out there when I need them, right? Who's going to be managing my tenants. So having this strong team and then care for them at the same time, so then build that trusted relationship is what I focus on more, so that everyone wins along with myself, and then eventually my investors and tenants as well in this process. And then it's a win-win scenario for everybody.
That's wonderful. That's really, really good. So what markets are you buying in right now? Where do you think the best places are to invest in the US?
So I think right now the best place is to look into the southeast states and Texas. I feel that the population, even though it's slowed down a little bit, but it's continued to migrate in those states. Right now, Florida is the number one in terms of migration, followed by Georgia, Atlanta, and in Texas. I think California has been great for so far right now in terms of being Silicon Valley and a tech hub. But a lot of
Right.
those industries are now moving to Texas. So I'm seeing a lot of
Yes.
that stuff moving to San Antonio, Austin, Houston.
Mhm.
Dallas has been like a magnet for a business. And a lot of that artificial intelligence startups are starting actually in Texas.
Really?
So yeah, and
Hmm.
that's where I think the tech talent is also going. It's income-free state. They're great lifestyle, like
Yeah.
Dallas, Houston. These are big metropolitan cities right now, and people are seeing opportunities there, even the business and individuals. So that's the data that I'm collecting, and that's helping me to make the decision, where should I invest next.
Gotcha. Well, looking back, like what was your first deal? And I guess what are some of the lessons you learned? Because you've been investing for a long time. So what are the things that you've learned that, okay, you know what? I probably made some mistakes and things that people could avoid. Anything that you like to share?
Yeah, the two mistakes I think. Uh, One is perform your due diligence, like go deep as much as possible and do not leave it to hope, really. So look at it when you're trying to buy, like really go in the books, like what's happening on that property. Look at it, what's been the tenant class has been in the past, who you are renting it to, who's going to be the
Yeah.
property manager, right? So
Mhm.
like really focus on your team and build the really all the data that you can collect up, because anywhere you miss and then it's gonna be really expensive. Like if you get one bad tenant, it's gonna cost you a lot more. And same is true with property manager. One bad property manager you hire and then it's gonna cost a lot. So there is a risk there, but you'll have to do your perform your due diligence. The second side of it, do not let that fear stop you from investing, right? So you can
Yes.
get like really analysis paralysis. Do not
Mhm.
have that happen to you, because if then there is no reward if you take no risk, right? So we all
Right.
know that, and hence you'll make a decision, but create all that data and make a sound decision, but then go for it. Do not stop from there.
Right,
Yeah,
right. Yeah, that's good. You're right. You got to take control, even though it's passive investing. You still need to take a look at the data, and everything's, as I say, Googleable. You can take a look at, what's the crime rate, what's the population growth before you're starting investing with someone else. So I think that's really good. It's a good point. You do have to take some control. Now, once you've made that decision, yeah, you can sit back and relax and collect that
exactly,
mailbox money like your grandfather did. But
exactly.
I agree. It's like, yeah, you really do need to understand the markets even as a passive investor.
Yeah,
Um,
your homework goes in before, like before you invest, like do all of
yes.
your homework. Who is the team? Who is the sponsor? Who is the operator? Who is the property manager? Like just do your thorough due diligence on each one of them and look at their track
Mhm.
record. And then only when you feel comfortable, go for it.
Right. So have you had any trip ups in your passive investing? Because I've shared the one, I had a big one that had a capital call on it. Didn't lose any money, I just didn't make as much money. Have you had any experiences in your investing that were good lessons to share?
Yeah, one passive investing that definitely. So I think it was a construction project
Oh,
and then it started. It started great and everything, but then we started running into issues where the land was soft, and then the construction cannot be started, and so then we have to do some groundwork on that, and then that caused delays into the construction, and so we weren't able to achieve at the time where the distribution should start coming in or the property should start getting stabilized. We were way behind on that. So those kind of trip ups can happen all the time. But yeah, those are the lessons learned, that some stuff needs to be taken care of, like if they are doing all the work or not. Ask questions to the operators, like, hey, what is it about that? When it's gonna start? Like even though you are passive, but look at the monthly reports, see what's going on, and ask questions.
very good, very good. So what's your philosophy on investing strategies? Is it the cash flow or is it the appreciation? Do you have one there? Because that's always a debate. Like, okay, if the cash flow is really good, but would I rather have? So what are your thoughts on that?
So it's an age-old question. Yeah, definitely. I think there is no right answer. It depends on to your goals, I
Yeah,
feel like, and those goals are very personalized, right? If I ask someone, what is your goals? And then based on that, appreciation make more sense. For the other person, they might be cash flow. They are not want to play
right.
risky or something, right? They are risk averse. So it depends on the person to person. So I would say define your goals first. What are those? Like, what is it that you want to achieve? Like, looking for from this investment? Like, yes, it may as well to just keep that cash in your bank, because if that gives you the peace of mind, do that. Because
Right.
it can be an emotional commitment, right? And if investing with someone else causes you to not being able to sleep at night, don't do it, right?
Right.
Get yourself comfortable. define your goals, and if you think that makes the right thing for me, go for it, right? And then from there, build it with your wealth. I would say that right now in the current environment, what we are looking for is definitely cash flow, because we have seen appreciation. We may not see that kind of appreciation for a long time now, because what was being available to us with a low interest rate, that may not happen in the next 5, 6, or 10 years. So right now, what I am focusing on is long-term debt at a low interest rate, whatever I can get as a fixed, keep it long time, 10 years, and just lock it in, make sure that it cash flows, break even, property can pay for itself, and just keep it 10 years plus. And whenever the opportunity strikes, refinance and return all the capital to the investors, and then keep the investors in the deal, even though their capital is returned, and now they can just being an owner, and then whatever it flows through you, it's going to give you infinite return because you have no capital invested in there. So that's a model that I'm looking forward going to see if that's going to work out. So I think that's something investors should also look for.
Yeah, there's not many of those out there. It's the infinite return. So at a certain point, you've increased the value so much, you can basically take the investors out or give back all their money. And now it's just 100% returns.
Exactly.
But are other people doing that in the industry? Most of us are big syndicators, and we're going to turn that as quick as possible. Have you encountered somebody that's doing that?
I have seen only one model so far who has started doing this, but you are right that not many people. But I feel that a lot of people should start looking into that direction, because if you look at it, real estate, how does it build wealth? If you look at it, where did you grow up? Like the house that you grew up, and look at what's the value it has right now, and at what price your dad or your grandfather bought it for, right? So the value is always in keeping in a really long term, 10 years plus. And that's where the real wealth gets built. Like cash flow is necessary so that you are not paying into it from your pocket every day, so that you can have the life you want, and then that business and that property just can pay for itself. But I think keeping a long term is something that I'm trying to focus more on.
Excellent. So let's talk a little bit more about that, because this is interesting, because I hear people talk about it, but nobody's really done it. So how would you say over the course, so you get a loan, what do you get usually it's 5 or 6 year loans. You'd have to get a longer loan at the beginning, or are you talking about refinancing after you've had it for a while? The value is appreciated enough that you can refinance and pull all the money out. That's the plan. So how would that timeline look like? Play that out for me, because nobody's really done it. So play it out. What do you think?
So here is what I think it is. Like, buy it right now today and get a 7-year or a 10-year fixed rate on it, whatever it is. It will gonna come up with some prepayment penalty. Hopefully with a 5-year prepayment penalty, it's gonna go out. I want to hold it for long term. So let's say at 7 years we refi, and we are gonna cash flow till 7 years. Whatever cash flow is gonna bring in is gonna be small, like 1%, 2%, 3%, and then we're going to keep returning it to the investors, and that will be like returning of the capital and not like a cash flow as like a dividend. So 1% to 3% every year by year 7. So around 20% will probably be returned by that time, the return of the capital. So 14 to 20%. Now at year 7, we refi, and the property value would have grown by 1.7 to 1.8 times from there. And then we refi at a 70% LTV. Now, what we have returned, the 14 to 20% capital back to the already. Now at a refi, we target 60 to 80% of the return of that capital on that refi again.
Oh, okay.
Now, 100% of the capital is returned, but all the investors are still in the deal. They are not exited. And now, if the property cash flows or even break even at the refi, now you keep it for another 3 to 5 years. Any new money that's going to come in is an infinite return, because you have no money on the deal. Now at 10-year or a 12-year mark, you exit from the deal. And now whatever the equity that it has built or appreciation it has built in the last 5 to 7 years, it's going to be an infinite gain to you. And it's all you can 1031 or just invest it further. So you can defer it from the tax perspective. So it's going to return really into a 2x plus multiplier at the end of a 10-year timeline.
The only concern I would have is, do you have to have a capital expenditure to remodel? Because typically we hold for 6 years is our typical business plan. We've been turning things quicker than that just because the market's been so hot. But I know you're right. It's better to hang on to it longer. But if you're holding it for 10, 12, or 15 years, are you going to have to remodel at some point, maybe at year 8? And where would you get the cash to do that? Would you do that to refi? When you refi, explain how you'd pull that off.
Yeah, that's a great question. So at a refi, I think we will keep some capital. If let's say we are returning it to the investors, we keep some portion of that into the deal to be able to spend on the capital expenditures. Because if we see that if we do that, then the property valuation is going to increase even further, and it just makes sense to do it. And now we have the money also from the refinance. So then that means that the return of capital will decrease a little bit. So instead of 100%, we probably achieve only 80% of it, which is fine. Then they have only 20% of the capital in the deal, but they have 100% of the ownership still. So that is still a win-win for the investor. So that's how it can be played out.
Yeah, I want to see somebody do that. I think it's a great idea, and I think a lot of people would like that, because we do have investors when we turn something in 24, 32 months, like, okay, now I've got to pay taxes on that. Now I've got to find something else to do it, or roll it into something else that I know I hear people talking about all the time, including yourself. And I've even thought about, there's, like you've said, you've ran across one person that's done it. I think maybe the environment might motivate people to say, you know what, we should probably be doing this, because it may be a 6-year, because all investors I talk to now, they've seen us do these 2 and 3 year returns, like full cycle on a deal.
Exactly.
I tell everybody, plan on 6 years, plan on the full 6. So kind of set expectations realistically, and even 10 or 15 is even better. So yeah, I think we need to keep looking at that.
It's about resetting the expectations of everyone, right? Like syndicators, investors, because we were able to exit the deals much earlier, but in the current environment, it may not be possible. So set the realistic expectations and then go with the long-term horizon mindset. And I think everyone will come out as a winner in that scenario.
Yes, I love it. I love it. That's really refreshing, because I've heard a few people talk about it, but I think you're the one to make it happen. Right?
I plan to do that. Yes.
Good. Well, you know what? We're friends. I'll be alongside you there. I'm interested.
Perfect.
So we'll be talking. Well, we've come to the time where we're going to do the lightning round. Are you ready?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay. Here we go. 5 questions. As a nickname, or I'm sorry, as a child, what was your nickname? Did you have a nickname?
I did. Not a formal one, but not everyone called me, but some of my friends and my mom used to call me Angie.
Angie?
Yeah.
Very good. Good. Number 2, morning person or night owl?
Night owl.
Yeah, that's why we're friends. Yes. Good answer. Good answer. Now, what about your wife?
She is night owl as well.
Good. That works out really well, because if you're off schedule, my wife and I are the same way. So that's great. The win. There's a win. Number 3, what would be the first thing you do if you won the lottery?
I won the lottery. I'll buy more real estate.
Would you quit your job?
I probably, or at least decrease by some amount. Yes. I still love my job, what I'm doing. I like coaching people and growing people and help them. So I love that. But I probably decrease it a little bit, and so that I can focus on other stuff as well.
Well, you've already got, I mean, you already got real estate as something else you could do. So you're not going to sit around and eat bonbons on the couch watching, soap operas.
Right.
You would have something to do. So that's
to do. Exactly.
Number 4, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Oh, I would live in probably Miami.
Oh, Miami, really? Okay. Yeah. I visited there. Have you visited much there?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So why? What do you like about Miami?
Good weather, good state, business friendly states. A good, it has a vibe of everything. Some scenic water, weather is nice, and then also it routes to other areas like Bahamas. You can go to, you can take a cruise to different places. So it's just really nice.
Yeah, I've been to Miami, but it's only to go through the port to go to
Of course,
Caribbean
yeah,
cruises. Probably been there 6, 7 times, but I've never really spent any time there. But I think it's a nice city. You're good.
yeah.
And the number 5, what's one piece of advice, the golden nugget you would give to new investors to help them get better returns? What's the one piece of information for a new passive investor?
I would say that continuously educating yourself is very necessary in the current environment. So don't let all the news headlines or everything stop you from being able to achieve what you want to go. So write down your goals and how you want to achieve it, and then just educate yourself, and then take a step. Don't sit on the sidelines. Just a small steps every day, but take it, and be consistent about it, and then you will be able to see your goals being fruitful in the duration. Yeah,
Excellent, excellent advice. Thanks so much for sharing. And I'm looking forward to that 10 to 15 year investment plan that you have for the next apartment complex.
absolutely,
All right.
absolutely.
Thanks for being on the show. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Matt, for having me here. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
And that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to Better Returns, brought to you by Hanson Holdings. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star review because it helps others discover this valuable content. If you would like to earn truly hands-off passive income, go to hansonholdings.com, where we help you invest in large apartment complexes to grow your family's wealth. See you next week with another awesome episode. Have a great day.